Oh, good. Hey YouTube, I am going to reshoot a video that I did years and years ago, and it was one of my more popular videos, segment, thread, thing, series, whatever. It was all about sourdough bread. And the first one of those is to show you how to make a sourdough bread starter, which I have just started because I killed mine some years ago. It was ugly. Actually, I don't remember what I did to it. But this is one of the easiest things on the planet. Everybody gets a little scared of bread baking. You don't have to be afraid of bread baking. This is how easy it is, and you're gonna see just how simple, and the results are to die for. I mean, if you want your family at the kitchen counter scrapping over the good stuff right when it's ready, this is how to get them to do that. Okay, I'm gonna talk to you about what this is. All-purpose flour. Now, eventually, you can take this sourdough starter and you can use whole wheat with it, you can use rye, you can use whatever you want. You can end up with whatever you want. This, however, is the most consistent, especially when you're getting your starter going. This is just plain old all-purpose flour, nothing special. It's not organic, it's not even name brand. It's just generic, okay? I've seen, right before I did this, I went through and I looked at all kinds of recipes and methods of starters and that kind of stuff. Ricky, what? Was it blurry because it was dirty or blurry because it's out of focus? You don't know. Okay, great. I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, I've seen all kinds of methods, you know, like, oh, to get a sourdough starter going, you have to do 2/3 cup of magic flours and half a cup of this and a pinch of blah blah. You know, I never knew you had to do all those things. For the past 30 years, I've thought this was the way to do it. And the funny thing is, because I didn't know I was supposed to be doing something else, my way worked. I don't use a recipe, I use ratios, okay? It does not matter what size measure you use. That was a half a cup of flour and a half a cup of water. Boom, there you go, half and half. So that's your ratio, 50-50. Sure, you can use warm water. You don't have to. It works, it's just whatever. But what you're doing is you're putting out a medium for catching wild yeast. I think when I first shot these videos, I talked about how the wild yeast was like little fairies that came down into your kitchen and made happy things happen when you weren't looking. That's almost exactly what happens, except it's a wild fungus. It's not a fairy, but I like the word fairy better than fungus. Okay, so this is all you do. You do 50-50, water and flour, stir it up in a clean container, then you're gonna cover it loosely. It needs to be able to breathe. So you're gonna cover it loosely. This is the one I did yesterday, and I think the easiest way to cover it with something that will breathe is a coffee filter and a rubber band. That way when your cat gets on the counter and they're not supposed to, they don't get cat hair in it. Not that anything like that would ever happen here. I'm just saying. All right, see how that looks a little funky? You getting a good shot of the funky? There actually isn't a whole lot happening yet. This has only been about 24 hours, but you can see how you've got this kind of strange situation going on here. That's actually exactly what you want, okay? What you're doing at this point, oh, wait, Ricky, I don't know if we can see this. Can you come down through the top here? It's kind of a tight fit. Does that show well? We're not quite in focus yet, can we? Because it's the texture that I want to show. Okay, I'm gonna pull it up. Can you see how that's kind of a spongy type situation going on? No? Trust me. Oh, there. Right there in that corner. I can't believe we're working this hard to get it. But do you see that? That's actually correct. It looks slightly spongy, a little strange, but like I said, 24 hours, it smells like flour. There's no distinct odor to it yet. We're waiting on that distinct odor. All right, so now with sourdough starters, you're gonna have about somewhere between 5 and 10 days to get it started. People will tell you, ooh, it takes 5 days. You don't know how long it takes. There's a million variables because we don't know the exact temperature of your kitchen. We don't know how long it's going to take for the right yeast to pop in there and get going. We're waiting on this bubbly, yeasty, foamy thing to happen, and that's going to take a while. Here's how you make it happen. That is your water and flour. 24 hours later, you're going to feed it. You're going to feed it equal parts flour and water. So a 1/4 cup or 1/3 of a cup or 1/2 a cup, or if you want more sourdough, then you would need to feed a rock band. You would use like a gallon. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Just equal parts, 50-50. We just mixed up 50-50, so I'm just going to use this. Tomorrow, we're going to come back. We're going to do the exact same thing, 50-50, flour and water. That's called feeding your starter. You stir it up. You're giving the yeast something fresh to snack on. Think about by the 3rd day, there's a good chance you'll have to get rid of some of this to make room for the new flour and water. That's fine, all to be expected. In the meantime, we're going to cover this back up. We're going to park it somewhere on my kitchen counter where it tends to be warm, and we're just going to take 15 seconds a day for the next few days, feed it, stir it, and wait for the magic to happen. Alrighty, day 3 in our sourdough starter development, and we're working. It is working. Love it. Okay, so let's see. Now that shows up. I was getting a little bit of that yesterday. Not sure how much of it we were able to capture, but I think it's pretty obvious right here that you know, that's what we're looking at. That nice spongy texture is starting, and we're starting to get some bubbles. And then we still have that little funky separation line right there. That's also perfect. It's exactly what we want to do. All right, so I'm working one-handed. Crap, how do I do this? All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to feed it. Now, this is going to get too full. I think I've got about a day before I have to worry about pouring some off as I feed it. We're going to assume I do. And I have a clean jar. I'm going to put everything in a clean jar just because, see the crusty stuff on the edge? That starts to bug me. Absolutely no reason to get a clean jar other than that. Alright, so that's 1/3 of a cup of flour, 1/3 of a cup of water, and I'm simply going to stir everything up. Stir that, the separated liquid, stir all that back up in there. That's fine, that's what you want. You're looking for that. And I have to say today, if you smell it, it doesn't quite smell yeasty, but there's definitely something there. So there's our old starter, just till we got to the top. And you know what? I may have just given myself an invitation to have a big mess all over my counter because it may foam up. All right, we're stirring all that flour up from the bottom. And that's all you gotta do. We're still a good 2 to 5 days out from having that starter be ready to use, so I'm throwing on another coffee filter, sticking it back on the counter, and we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, another 24 hours, and hang on. Hi, baby. Hello. Okay. Sorry about that. It has been another 24 hours, and we are checking on progress. That's perfect. That's all right, so we are getting foamy, we are getting bubbly, and there's still really no fragrance. It's slightly sweet. It smells like, still just smells like flour. So we're waiting on that yeasty smell to develop. That's when we know it's doing its thing. I'm just making sure that I've got everything mixed up. So we're just gonna feed him one more time. We're gonna give him some fresh water, some fresh flour. Okay, that's pretty well mixed. And, oh, sorry, kitty. Don't get under my feet. What is the matter, you two? Not sure what they're doing. You've got food and water. You just want company? I'll be there in a minute. Okay, just got a 1/4 cup of flour, and I'm gonna give it, just like we did yesterday, 1/4 cup of water. Ta-da! And we're gonna pour in our previous batch. And this is, again, gonna get a clean cover and a rubber band, and it's gonna go sit back on its warm spot. We'll be back again with it tomorrow. Okay, we have continued to feed him half a cup of flour, half a cup of water every day. And I usually do that kind of the same way I showed you in the first video. I'll take a clean mason jar, I'll put the clean flour and new water in that, stir it up, and then pour as much of the old starter as will fit into the new jar. 12 days. I said in the beginning it would take 5 to 10 days, I think. It has taken 12 days. Probably the number one reason is because the weather suddenly took a turn for being really chilly and been a little wet and rainy. So it doesn't look all that much different than it did at first, right? The big difference is the fragrance. So we have the bubbles and we have that spongy texture. The difference with this one, let's see, is that it smells like yeast. It smells like bread, okay? That's what we've been after. All right, guys, this is a sourdough starter ready to use. All I have to do at this point, I'm gonna put another coffee filter over the top, and I can stick this in the fridge at this point. And then you just feed it once a week, right? Take out however much you're gonna use and feed it, or dump half of it and feed it. But make sure you feed it. That's how I killed my last one. I kind of forgot about it in the move, and then it just, you know, didn't make it. Anyway, guys, here you go. That is the first step into phenomenal homemade sourdough bread. And now you have a great starter to work with.